La Vita Bella. Fellini filmed here. Arezzo awaits what will be a very, very dramatic finish today. Peter Sagan starting off as one of the out-and-out favourites, no doubt about that. A sinuous finish with a nasty ramp at the end of 203 kilometres. It'll be good. Yesterday, well, it was a dramatic stage. We thought it would be, as they mustered for a sprint finish at the very last. It was a big old looping course, and when the breakaway was finally caught, the sprinters' teams were trying to get themselves sorted out. They were jostling for position in the best view or review or preview, if you like, of the course. And in so doing, a number of wheels touched on a number of occasions. Moreno, one of those who found himself bitten hard. And when it came to the sprint finish, likewise, we had impact of the wrong kind. Well, MTN Quebecer was supposed to be working for Spragley. He got lost with the firepower of the men up front, so it wasn't Quebecer's day. They were trying to sort themselves out. Lots of jostling, elbows, manoeuvring, and in fact, a coming together between Mark Cavendish and Viviani. They were to hit the deck. Real shame for both Viviani and others who were caught out, as you can see. Cav did finish after his issues with his chain, but leading the pack home, Derbyshire, the Belgian champion, delivered in emphatic style. Well, big names had been neutered, of course, because of the incidents along the way. Nonetheless, take nothing away from the Belgian champion. There is Viviani hitting the deck, and not a happy man, unlike this one. Swapping the tricolour for the red jersey, taking the leads in the points competition. Moreno staying in touch. Peter Sagan came close yesterday, and as a result, he is their red-hot favourite to take over the lead today. In case you didn't know, it's springtime officially, and it feels like it today. This is where we're going to be finishing, and there will be a number of previews of it. It's a nasty little turn late on. The Milan-San Remo is rapidly approaching. A lot of those who might think they've got a chance there might think the same about today. It really is a little bit of rough stuff, kind of a punch-up, if you like, at the end of what will be a very long day today. More on that in a moment. Sunny, temperature 13 Celsius, feels much warmer than that when you're out of the wind, which is still blowing in west-northwest, so bringing some cold air down with it, but only 9 kilometers per hour. So what about today's stage? It is a long one, as we said, so over 200 kilometers from Cascina, and it's the ramp circuit at the end which is going to provide our fun, Dan Lloyd.
Yeah, many of you who joined us last year for this Tirreno-Adriatico will remember this stage very well indeed. They did exactly the same stage this time last year, and you'll remember that Peter Sagan won on the day, and he's the hot favourite for today. And of course, if he does win again, he will be going into the leader's blue jersey. Plenty of people that are going to be here trying to push him as close as possible, or even beat national champion from Tinkoff Saxo. It's going to be a great stage. It's an extremely fast finish apart from that drag up here into Arezzo. There we go. There's the climbs that they've pretty much already dealt with so far today. They've been over the 2 official KOMs. There's a couple of little digs a little bit later on, and then we've got those 5 11-kilometre circuits at the finish.
So Cascina, we bid fond farewell to them this morning. It's quite remarkable. In this part of the world, every single town and village has something very, very special about it. Cascina, no different. Well, Colombia have been busy. They've got themselves in the break. BMC likewise. I could tell you both teams represented yet again. Mallory signing on today, wearing the leader's blue jersey, but for how much longer? This man, Peter Sagan, wearing the white Young Riders jersey, expected to take it from him. Another man, at least with white shoulders. It's not a flag of surrender. Of course, it is Fabian Cancellara, who could go well. Likewise, starting only a second down, could feature.
Jürgen Roelands, this could be a stage for you, but what shape are you in?
It's a bit watching out for me because I had the flu last week. I was 7 days off my bike, but I did a finish last year also, and normally it's a finish that should suit me.
Greg, your kind of stage today?
Yeah, I think it's a good stage for me. I didn't saw the finish yet, but saw it on TV, and I think it's a good last K uphill. So I think positioning is important today, and if you're in a good position to the last K, I think it's a good finish for me.
Steve Cummings, you look in great shape. You had a good prologue. What do you think of today?
I think it's a technical finish and a bit sort of crazy going into it, and I think it's a good finish for like Bosenhagen or Sagan or somebody like that.
Ramūnas Nevardauskas, how are you feeling? Is this a good stage for you?
It depends, you know, it's long stage, and at the end we have this technical circuit with a small kicker in the end. So it will be really difficult to position yourself and then to make a hard, difficult sprint. Because it's not like for pure sprinter, it's more for power guy. But then again, you know, to make a good positioning, you need really good team. So it will be really technical and really interesting to watch on the race.
Ian Stannard, you've got great legs, good prologue. What about today's stage?
Yeah, the final's pretty tough. You know, you've got some cobbles coming into the finish as well, and we go through there 6 times, so we'll see what it's like and go from there.
Well, one thing they will have is a preview of the finish line again and again. We have a King of the Mountains leader, as you can see, in a green jersey. We did have some KOMs yesterday, and we've got more today. And I can tell you that Daniel Weiss, who there he is in the green, has comforted his position, as they say in France. He has taken the first of the day's KOMs. Not a great deal of differentiation between the climbs on the Tirreno-Adriatico. You have Superiore, which gives you more points, and Normale, which gives you normal points. Anyway, he's got enough to be in that green jersey and have made it his own, at least for today. As you can see, as soon as they got themselves underway, it got very, very lively very, very quickly. We're getting kind of used to this. Giant involved with Chad Hager, the American, 26 years of age. He is there. Good time trialist as well, and he's joined by others who are not bad when it comes to races against the clock, and I guess setting your rhythm is what it's all about. Flens of Lotto Jumbo is in the break. Quintero and Weiss, who are both in the break yesterday, probably hunting mountain points, I should imagine. Weiss in the green jersey are also here. So Team Colombia represented once again. And we have Bohem of Bardiani in the lime green, not the mountains jersey, also up there having fun. It was quite an effective break in as far as such a long distance as this, 203 kilometres. The pack clearly believed that the men who should be up there had in fact gone. No threat to anybody. destination Arezzo. Now, when you do have a preview of a finish, you're probably surprised to hear at the top of the programme that some riders have not actually previewed the finish at all. Well, they get their previews here. We've got 5 laps around the circuit, and one man who's already been out there just for you, Mr. Daniel Lloyd. How was it today?
It was very, very pleasant, actually. A very nice day to be out riding your bike. Yeah, I rode from our hotel in Arezzo here, and shortcut towards the way they come in towards the circuit. So I rode from about 85 k's to go. Came in towards the circuit, which was about 30 k's, and then just did 1 lap of the finish loop, just to remind myself of what they faced last year, which was exactly the same. Nothing really too much of note in the bits that I actually did. It is an extremely technical run into the finish. The riders will get to see that, of course, 4 times before they go up there for the final time towards the finish, so they'll know what's in store. That might not necessarily make it any less chaotic, because once they know what's in store, they'll know where they need to be at the front, and everybody's going to want to be there. They're not all going to fit. One of the first pinch points coming at 3 k's to go. You almost do like a hairpin turn, slip road off a main road. It funnels down as well, and then of course around about a k to go, we've got a double right-hander just before the climb starts. That's going to be absolutely crucial. And then you go up this really steep ramp, tarmacs there, before we then sort of have a little bit of a plateau, and then that last part of the climb up towards the finish, last 500 or 600 metres or so on kind of paved road.
So we're here at stage 3 of the 2015 Tirreno-Adriatico Cascina to Arezzo 203-kilometer stage. They've raced about 140 kilometers thus far. There's a 5-man lead group with the peloton 3.5 minutes back. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching stage 3 of Tirreno-Adriatico on Bein Sports. Tirreno-Adriatico 2015. It's a 203-kilometer journey. We're 60 kilometers or so from the finish line already. A 3-minute gap between 5 leaders and the main peloton has broken out. Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd have your call. Let's send it back down to the race. You're watching Bein Sports.
Out-and-out sprinter. It's not for a Cavendish, I wouldn't say. It wouldn't even have been for a Viviani, even if he hadn't crashed yesterday and injured himself. It really is for those guys who've got that really punchy power for that little bit longer than a normal flat-out sprinter. So the guys that can do a very good power for 30 seconds to 1 minute and still do a very good kick at the end. So, yeah, we're talking about the likes of Peter Sagan. Stybar will be an interesting one. You've had a quick look at Lutsenko. He's an interesting guy from Astana, the World Under 23 champion a couple of years ago, and you could be right with him. Colbrelli was one of the kind of outsiders. He's retired from the race at kilometre 80. Haven't got word as to why that is, so they'll be passing the baton to Battolin, presumably. Van Avermaet, well, we've seen what form he's on in all sorts of races so far. Second or third, was it, in the prologue. Sam Bennett will be interesting as well. He's not a guy that is afraid of the climbs, the small ones, by any means. I mentioned it a couple of days ago, but going over Caerphilly Mountain and Tour of Britain when he was with the Anne Post team a couple of years ago, which is far, far bigger than this, and then sprinting it to victory.
Magnus Cort can't be discounted, and I've got a feeling that a young rider, don't forget when Sagan started imposing himself on, well, just about everybody, including his teammates, which didn't go down well, I think you may remember. Lutsenko is 22 years of age, the young Kazakh from Astana, and he goes very, very well in this sort of terrain. Likewise, Cort, the young Dane for Orica Green Edge. I know we've got some fans down there watching on in Australia. I think Cort could well be a bet. He's also 22, just like Lutsenko, and it would be a kind of a revelation to a lot of people if these guys came to the fore. We do know about them, and we know that this is their kind of terrain. If others have a second thought, they will step forward.
Yeah, well, they'll be looking for something to increase their morale, Orica Green Edge, at least here in Tirreno. They've been hugely successful already over in Paris-Nice with Michael Matthews winning a stage and taking the jersey for a day. But here yesterday on the very first road stage, a number of their riders came down, including birthday boy Jens Maurice, ex-teammate of mine actually from 2007, and we understand that you know, he had some reasonably serious injuries, nothing that took him out of the race. Same for Svein Tuff, the Canadian champion. There is Steve Cummings just picking up some bottles. Is Brian Smith in that car, Carlton?
Oh, I think it was
Brian.
Yeah, the British Badger. Yeah, just handing over the bottles. Not such a sticky bottle, that one either. We may have Brian joining us in the commentary position a little bit later on in this race. It'd be interesting to have a chat about Quebecer, the team, and how it's been formed and assembled and taking on a truly international profile. Didn't have things their own way yesterday. It was a slight disappointment to them. Spragley, the youngster, was given what would have been on paper just a couple of years ago the ultimate lead-out train with Bosenhagen, Tyler Farrar, Matt Goss all working for him, and they've clearly got something still left in the engine room, because unfortunately they left him behind, and they'd put in their efforts too early, and I think muted their challenge just a little bit. We'll see how they go today. I think Čolek has got possibly an option today, as if they haven't got others. Apparently Bosenhagen and Čolek were both asking for it today on the team bus, which means they were putting in a bid to be supported.
Well, that could be interesting then. It's kind of one of those things where the biggest job really is done when you get to 1K to go. If you've got a position there, then you're not going to lose it, and after that it's pretty much going to come down to power, unless there's a slight stalling amongst the people that have made it towards the front and someone can take advantage, but I don't quite envisage that happening. BMC down there in the bright red, just getting all their troops up towards the front. Movistar also riding it in one big group and team at the moment. And it's Tinkoff Saxo who, as you might expect, are doing all of the work on the front of the bunch. This breakaway did get a big lead, Carlton, actually. Over 13 minutes they were allowed fairly soon after they went off. Quickly brought down, and the current time gap, as you can see, 3 minutes and 23 seconds. They've taken 10 minutes back. 60 Ks to go, so they'll be on these circuits very, very shortly indeed.
Average speed on the 3-hour mark, just under the 40 kilometres per hour. It's nudged up above that right now. It's courtesy of the fact that they've just let the brake go. It's a long distance, this, to be taking on at the top of the season, just over 200 kilometres. And there's a couple of very long stages as we make the trip from the Mediterranean to the Adriatic, which of course gives this race its name, the Tirreno being the Mediterranean and the Adriatico likewise the Adriatic. Here's your virtual standings as we are at the moment. Daniel Weiss would be our leader if the race stopped now, but they've got 60 kilometres to go, and it gets a bit messy, as you can see. If you're given options, there aren't many options at the end, apart from just to try and stay on your bike and stay out front. Now, Tinkoff Saxo are doing a lot of work on behalf of Peter Sagan, I guess you might say, but I think more so it's really to protect Alberto Contador, who will be doing his job when the road kicks up, and it does suddenly get very peaky over the next couple of days. In fact, stages 4 and 5 are a real test, and Alberto Contador won't be too worried about his deficit of 19 seconds carried over from a time trial, which was, well, lackluster to say the least. He's capable of refinding that gap when it gets to the peaky stuff, so let's wait and see then. But they do need to keep hold of Contador. As for Sagan, you're thinking, well, why aren't they working for him? Sagan, to be honest, is never really a man who relies too heavily on his team, certainly not on approach work. He doesn't really like a lead out. He's not going to need one today. So basically, Sagan's not the man they're focusing on. It's holding on for Contador. But Sagan himself, he'll just ride it, and he'll ride with whoever, because he knows that the business end of the day is when he will flourish. And frankly, he doesn't want any teammates getting in the way. He'd rather be on his own and just peeking and punching whenever he can. So watch out for Sagan a little bit later on, although his teammates still putting in plenty into the engine room of the pack as they close down the breakaway. It's now 3 minutes and 12. Colombia also working hard today, and I wouldn't be surprised if today they managed to feature at least in the top 5.
Yeah, they're amassing towards the front of the peloton there, despite the fact they've got their man here up the road, Quintero. He lost out to Danilo Vis there in the green jersey for BMC. They were on equal points after yesterday. Vis starting today in the jersey, courtesy of being higher up the general classification. But yeah, Vis has got the better of him both times on the GPMs today, so he'll be out and out leader this evening, so long as he finishes the stage.
Quintero of Colombia is in the break, but they are working clearly for others. Avila's not bad. Casablanco is a bit of a wrestler as well when it comes to this, and that's the character, I think, that you're going to need by the end of the day. Number 7, you saw there, Peter Sagan. If you're wondering where on earth his yellow bib shorts are, well, he is not wearing the Tinkoff Saxo. He is, of course, his national champion. And so it's rather a concoction that he appears to be in, but it's the white young rider's jersey, and we do keep having to remind ourselves that Peter Sagan is still a young rider. Here's your altimetry of the day. We have already contested the opening KOMs, and in fact Danilo Weiss of BMC stays in the green jersey and now puts a little bit of distance between himself and the chasers. It's not long before we get to our laps. They will spin out. Let's just talk everyone through them again, Dan. The final turn coming as it does very, very late on is the crucial one. If you emerge from that last turn in the lead, more often than not, and I do qualify that because I think last year it was not Sagan that came out of the corner first, but Sagan had the power to deliver, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
So we're under 60 kilometers left to go in today's stage 3 of the Tirreno-Adriatico from Cascina to Arezzo. The 5 riders are nearing the final circuit in Arezzo. We'll take a quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching Bein Sports. Welcome back to Tirreno-Adriatico here on Bein Sports. We're on our way to Arezzo. We're under 60 kilometers to go until the finish line. A quick update: your blue jersey holder, Adriano Malori. In the red jersey, Jens Debouchet. Your green jersey holder is Danilo Weiss. The King of the Mountains will stay in that for the remainder of the day into stage 3. And Peter Sagan is your white jersey holder. Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd have your call. Let's send it back down to the race.
Time up there, so the speed will still be kind of close to 40 k's per hour, but that of course is hugely different to yesterday where they were doing 70 k's per hour up towards the finish. Here we go then, 5 laps to go for our leading riders. 2 minutes and 47 is the current gap, and that will gradually of course whittle down as we usually see from the Tinkoff Saxo led peloton.
Did notice that 3 of the storm drain covers there right at the line are set the wrong way, so do not go on the left-hand side near the barriers. If it's getting tight, you might lose a front wheel down one of those and get yourself into bother. That's an error as far as the municipality is concerned. Arezzo, though, is absolutely stunning. There's the old fortified part of town where everyone used to retreat to if they were under threat. Yes, it is a truly beautiful part of the world. And Fellini, of course, doing some of his films here. Uomo dell'Uomo. There we are, there's a stone. Stone Tools, the original cavemen were here. In fact, in one of the little squares where we've just had lunch, there it is down there, in fact, sunny part of it, there is a stone pole against which, a stone pillar, against which traitors or people who'd been disgraced would be tied, hands above their heads, and then they'd be pelted with fruit at the end of the day. I'm not suggesting that that is a fate that anyone deserves these days, but I don't know. they've left the pillar there, I guess, just in case anyone else disgraces themselves. Who needs this today more than anybody else?
Sagan.
I think you're absolutely right. Yeah, he does need it, and he'd love the leader's jersey. I think it'd give him the confidence boost he needs. And it's a strange thing to say, isn't it, about a man who's had so much success in the past? Well, you can't get enough of it, it seems.
There's Svein Tuft, the Canadian champion, just struggling towards the back. We got a report yesterday in our results sheet, which went through the injuries that some of the riders had sustained in that crash yesterday. He came off pretty badly. It was sort of talking about a kind of dislocation of the shoulder almost. If that is the case, then it might well be that he's struggling to get out of the saddle and really pull on the handlebars, which of course affects you on the steep sections like they've just had. Already some of the big name riders and favourites up there towards the front. Sagan, of course, is at the rear of his Tinkoff Saxo train along with Contador, but Greg Van Avermaet taking his first look at the climb. He wasn't here last year. It was his teammate Philippe Gilbert who was carrying the mantle for Team BMC, finishing up there in the top 5 last year. But he's having a quick look. You can see Britain's Adam Yates for Orica Green Edge up there as well. A couple of the Movistar riders, including Visconti. Be interesting to see if he gets a free roll in today's stage, or whether he's having to sit with Nairo Quintana.
Their first view of the finish with just over 52 kilometers to go. We are on the circuit here in Arezzo. It's a beautiful spring day, the sort of day that everyone would be tempted to grab the bike and go for it. Go for it, the sprinters will. Up the road at the moment, there is a brave breakaway, 2 minutes and 46 clear. I've got to tell you that amongst them is the wearer of the King of the Mountains green jersey. There he is for BMC, it's Weiss. He, along with Bohem, Quintero from Colombia, who was also with Weiss along in the break yesterday, are joined by Hager of Giant Alpecin and Rick Flens of Team Lotto Jumbo in the yellow and black. So they've had their fun, they've shared the sprint bonuses, they've picked up the mountains points. In fact, all that were available as a maximum went to Weiss. So he holds on and extends his lead in the green jersey competition. As for the rest, it's going to be a busy day, particularly for the strong men. And they're on the course, a looping course, a number of laps ahead of them. Still 50-odd K to go, but it's going to be fireworks at the end. And it's going to be the strongest, the toughest and the quickest in this kind of terrain that makes it home. Could have ourselves a new leader by the end of the day. Looking at the blue jersey group right now, who will be the leader? Well, with 10 seconds bonus at the line, it could be a number of riders, but Peter Sagan starting the day as out-and-out favourite. Never discount Zdenek Zdibar of Ethics Quickstep. He's that kind of guy. Greg van Avermaet is on supreme form, having posted his time trial of a lifetime, I think. He's only 2 seconds down, don't forget. Cancellara is also very much in with a sniff, but perhaps saving himself for not wanting to do anything too silly, I think is the phrase, ahead of the Spring Classics. But, you know, if he's got the space, he has the pace and the power also to have a go. And Cancellara, we remind you, is only a second down. Sagan, courtesy of his bonuses yesterday, is on the same time. There it is, the overall standings. The same time as Mallory, who wears the blue jersey. He was 6 seconds in arrears, picked up 6 seconds for finishing in second place yesterday behind Belgian champion Debaucher. And so Sagan on the same time, but if he finishes ahead of Mallory today, he will be the leader. But
only if he gets bonus seconds.
Yeah, that's true. Bonus seconds he needs.
Or Mallory loses time, of course.
10, 6 and 4 at the line. There are no more intermediate sprint seconds available. But, yeah, a lot of chops and changes likely. Sagan does lead the overall young riders standings ahead of Johan Le Bon by a margin of 8 seconds. But, yeah, really it should be Sagan's day. But should be and will be are two different things now.
Yeah, it's a complicated run, and it's one where a lot of things can go wrong before you even arrive to the final climb of 1 kilometre up here towards the finish. So, you know, a strong team will be key. They're doing a lot of riding on the front, pretty much just with Chris Juul Jensen at the moment and Tossato. There's the points overall standings, and Jens Debaucher, courtesy of his win yesterday, on 12 points. Patrick Conrad, who was in the breakaway yesterday and picked up both of the intermediate sprints, sits on 10, and Peter Sagan also on 10. After his second place yesterday.
Yeah, nice that Debaucher gets himself a jersey. Here's your overall climbers standings. And it's a gap of 4 points between Quintero and Weiss, who both got themselves in the break today. Weiss taking the King of the Mountains categorized climbs today. And there is your team standings with BMC, for the time being, anyway, 2 seconds clear of Movistar with Tinkoff Saxo up there too. It's all about the blue jersey, though, ultimately. And Contador has far from given up on it, although he did have a very lackluster individual time trial. Still not quite sure what was wrong with that. Did his shoulders just drop because of the strange start he got?
I don't think that would have put him off that much to finish as far down as he did. Who knows? I actually didn't really hear or read anything about reasoning behind a relatively lackluster performance from the Spaniard, but you know, he'll be looking to make up for it. This race is far from over. We've got the big mountains to come. We've got a hilly stage tomorrow as well, much hillier than today, which we shall go through for you a little bit later on. It's not a climb that I remember from past editions. So plenty of stages where he can make up that deficit. We know what Contador is like. We know how attacking he is. And yeah, I think that given the fact that he won this race by 2 minutes last year, says all you need to know. A few seconds in a time trial isn't necessarily going to mean disaster for this man on your screens right now.
Just under 50 kilometres to go. Alberto Contador looks kind of businesslike at the moment. And that's the way it should be, I guess, when you've got so much power and so much talent within your own physiognomy. And why not? You can see the tricolour, the Italian champion, Vincenzo Nibali, also there. And we remind you that we have got an abundance of GC talent here. It's a sort of opening test for them. No Chris Froome, sadly, but all the winners of all the Grand Tours from last year, which is an outstanding roster for a race such as this. Quick time for a comfort break for some of the riders, just as they ease themselves into the circuit. I think they're close enough for now for this to be an easy run. I expect it might be quite benign for about the next 30k.
Yeah, it will only really start to light up over the last lap and a half, I would say, really. That run in to have positioning on the penultimate time up towards the finish will be important. Teams will try to place their riders as best as possible and keep as many team personnel there for the last lap as possible as well. Then it's going to be absolutely flat out. This final 11 kilometres, starting with that downhill, which begins the circuit after the finish line. Very important to get in the right position down there, but you know, it's not too complicated after that. Plenty of straight roads, and it's really that last kind of 3 Ks where we're really going to see all of the fireworks happening. The pinch point at 3 Ks to go and a slight hairpin turn. It's very quick from there to the 1 K to go mark, where we get a double right-hander, a few little pinch points again. You pretty much aren't going to be able to move up from around about, well, probably that 3 Ks to go. It's been very difficult if you're outside the top 50 there to make your way towards the front.
Just picking out Mark Cavendish, are we? No, forgive me. Very much a longer shot. They don't look anything like each other. Rigoberto Urán, he had a great time trial at the top. He's turned himself into a much more effective time trialer, and of course, or trialist. Yeah, he's kind of finding himself, and of the GC contenders was the best on the opening day. It'll be interesting to see how he goes. It's a good element within Ethics Quickstep to have, I guess, no longer just a sprint-focused team, although I think Mark Cavendish was just a little unlucky yesterday. Chain issue apparently at the very end caused a veering which affected Viviani's line. Down he went and others came down too. Apologies issued by Mark Cavendish, but no sanction. It was purely just a mechanical, unfortunately.
Yeah, he rolled across the line. Tim de Waele, the famous Belgian photographer, has a picture, I think it was on Instagram, of Cav's chain off after the finish line. Ethics Quickstep, saying that they were going to carry out a full-on investigation into the reasons behind his chain coming off. They're on Shimano, I think, this year. It's not an official sponsor, Shimano. They've changed over from SRAM. There are rumours that both Tinkoff Saxo and Ethics Quickstep will be going over to an FSA electronic group set once it's up and ready and available to use for them. It'd be interesting to see if that does come off. There is the man, Mark Cavendish.
Unzipped and ready for action. Looks like he's got a radio issue. Let's have a quick look. There we are. So, chance to get that sorted out. This is not a free ride, by the way. It's an annoying thing if that's that kind of kit fails, isn't it?
Yeah, because it's quite awkward to get to. You put most of the teams will have bib shorts where they've got a special little pocket for the radio, which you are still allowed to use for those of you new to the sport in World Tour races, of which this is one. You can't use race radios in anything below this unless it's a time trial. So they will have communications with all of the drivers and sports directors in the following cars behind. And obviously he's got some kind of issue with it, Mark Cavendish, so he's just trying to get it sorted, but it can be awkward to get it done. This time last year, of course, he was riding on the front on this stage for his teammates. He knew it wasn't a stage for him. It'll be interesting to see whether he does that again today. But as you said, Carlton, issuing an apology personally, Cavendish last night on Twitter to Viviani. He said that you know, his chain coming off, just that loss of torque kind of made him sway across the road. And very unfortunate for Viviani. That was a heavy crash yesterday. It would have knocked the stuffing out of him even if he didn't break any bones.
Yeah, thankfully he bounced and slid rather than cracked and fell. 2 minutes and 30 is what we've got. 45.8 kilometres, and as we said, we've got a kind of knocking back the breaker within range.
So the riders on the final circuit around Arezzo. It's stage 3 of the 2015 Tirreno-Adriatico here on Bein Sports. Your virtual leader at the front of the race right now, Danilo Weiss. Adriano Malori still holding on to the blue jersey. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. You're watching Bein Sports. We've reached the final circuit of today's third stage, Cascina to Arezzo, 203 kilometers in total, down to 44 kilometers of that remaining. The blue jersey group, which holds most of the favorites, and the current blue jersey holder, Adriano Malori, is 2 minutes and 20 seconds behind the lead group. 5 riders, including Danilo Weiss, who is your virtual leader. Let's send it back down to the race. Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd have your call.
Quebec early on. Since then, other big names have arrived. I think Ciolek needs to be given a favour here, because he really did start the wave of talent that came to the South African team. And I'd like to see Ciolek go well, actually.
Well, given the way we saw them ride yesterday, I don't think it's beyond MTN Quebecer to deliver both of those riders to the foot of this final climb in a good position. And as I said, they can almost fend for themselves from that point onwards. So, you know, it's one of those few occasions where I do think, oh, that's where we had lunch earlier.
Ah, there's the pole. You see, it's actually made of stone. It's an ancient thing, apparently, that they sort of nicked from the local countryside and then stood it up. And they would tie traitors and people of disgrace to that. I think those pictures may well have come from a little bit earlier on today. I couldn't quite see if you were eating your lasagna there within view, which apparently was not hot enough for Dan's liking, but the sun was too bright. You have such a fussy chat these days.
Well, I forgot to bring my sunglasses with the integrated bottle openers on.
43.7 kilometres to go, just over the 2-minute mark. There is your finish line. They come by our commentary position and just sail on. Well, I'm enjoying this. It's a beautiful part of the world, so why wouldn't I? We feel extremely blessed to be here, frankly, and it's a lovely view as they go by. In fact, Dan Lloyd has just stood up, and like the fan that he is, he's decided to take himself a couple of pictures, and he'll probably put them up on Twitter just for your good selves. There is the cathedral. Went in there earlier on today. It's truly beautiful, extraordinarily high vaulted, and some very, very ancient frescoes in there. And when you know that frescoes have to be painted within the day, just before the plaster actually sets, it's all the more remarkable, the quality of the artwork there. You'd expect it, with having to be painted so quickly, it would have something missing, but there must have been an enormous team of artisans that really got it together, directed by the artist himself, to actually paint it before the plaster dried. And it's quite stunning. Those sort of things I find very humbling. 43.1 kilometres to go, and it's nice to see this. These are sort of gorgeous Italy cycling shots, aren't they? Very, very grand buildings in the most sort of modest surroundings. As Stan Lloyd was pointing out earlier on, he said, sure, London's London, and you know, there's got some fantastic buildings on a very, very grand scale, and some very ornate and historical buildings. But in Italy, you can come across grandeur in the smallest and most anonymous of places, and it really is breathtaking. Look at that for a lovely picture. Could grace the front of one of your coffee table magazines. And you're seeing the last couple of 100 metres. That's the turn, incidentally, where this camera is based. And you will look at the great escape, as it will be, for anyone who doesn't happen to be absolutely out the front at the turn. Just saw Betan Korat, actually, a few moments ago. No, he's come still looking quite heavy at the top of the season, but he does generally tend to find himself all of a sudden, and it's usually within the springtime, and provided he doesn't go AWOL, he's a good man to have in your team. But AWOL is what he has been in the past, as you've known, on occasion. Had a great spring last year and then just went missing for the Tour de France, which was bizarre. 41.9 to go. Dan, did you get the picture you were looking for?
Well, I tried my best, but there was a bit of a reflection on the window. I don't think it's my best effort. I'm going to try again next time they come round. All right, we might even open the window. You never know. Yeah, I think I need to do that. Yeah, well, thanks for the advice. It was your lasagna, probably speaking. 41.6 to go. Oh dear, our Canadian's not having fun. No, he's struggling a little bit today. He is another rider who does like to loiter towards the back of the peloton. You know, he's reasonably clever though. Sometimes you can, on certain occasions where you know there's a lot of corners coming up, just let off the gas a bit and know that there's going to be a bit of a concertina into the corner and everyone's going to be slowing down on the brakes and you can just catch back up without putting any effort in. But yeah, once the final laps come. He was going to struggle to do that. He's obviously hurting a little bit today, as is his teammate Jens Maurice. They all started this morning. We did have one non-starter. Just to remind those of you who have just joined the programme, Peluki, who finished last on yesterday's stage, was most affected by yesterday's crash on that last lap. The young rider from who won the stage, of course, last year, didn't start this morning, so a bit of a blow to them and a bit of a blow to his chances of Milan-San Remo, one of the outsiders for that race, if he managed to haul himself over the climbs. And Sonny Colbrelli, still no news as to exactly why he pulled out of the race, but at kilometre 80 he retired, so Bardiani also down to 7 riders.
Sonny Colbrelli would have started as one of the picks of the day, at least a little bit of an outsider, so real shame there. Thanks for your thoughts, by the way. Hoosier Madness is, as usual, locked on where he should be, which is in our company. Good on you, HM. Lisa Olsen-Sippel as well, who is a registered nurse in the United States, also having some fun watching the beautiful scenery. All right, it's not that beautiful on your screens right now, but they didn't build this high-rise stuff near the old stuff. Thank goodness for that. So they've kept it kind of separate. There is a real clarity about the light at this time of year. I guess they, possibly courtesy of the storms that they've had come through this part of the world. We had an amended course. The team time trial, we remind you, was changed due to a horrible storm, a bit of a mini hurricane that blew through and blew an awful lot of trees, concrete lampposts and the like, causing a lot of damage. And as a result, we had an individual time trial to start and to finish. How much of an impact do you think that will have title-wise here?
We don't really know, do we? I mean, of course, we've got some gaps and separation between the GC riders already, but, you know, arguably those gaps could have been completely different on a team time trial because of the strength of the teams. It's kind of, in some ways, almost a little better to have the prologue, in my opinion, just because it's down to you then and you only, rather than seeing some riders with a huge advantage just because they're in a much stronger team. It's one of those things, you know, it's what cycling's about. We've got all these different disciplines. Everybody knows, or normally, of course, what they're facing when they come into the race. That did change courtesy of the weather for this race this year, but yeah, everything's still very much to play for. We've got a similarly lengthed time trial to finish, slightly longer, 9-point-something kilometres, but you know, similar kind of effort. And in fact, I wouldn't be at all surprised to see Mallory and Fabian Cancellara right up there again on the very last day.
So we're down to the last 40 kilometers of today's stage, a 5-man lead-out group with about a minute-and-a-half advantage over the blue jersey group. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back on Bein Sports. A 5-man lead-out group still out in front. Nicola Bohm, Carlos Quintero, Chad Haga, Danilo Weiss, and Rick Flynn among them. 37.3 kilometers left to go, and the gap between the opening, well, the lead group and the peloton is closing. Let's send it back down to Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd.
Years ago, when he was the best young rider for a long time, I think he won that, in fact, at the Giro d'Italia, but never seemed particularly happy about it.
Yeah. I don't know why. You'd think having the life he does, it would be something to celebrate. I'm not quite sure whether you're getting some issues we're going to try and sort it.
36.8 kilometres to go then. That gap will be underneath the 1 minute mark very, very shortly. Looking at the way that it's coming down so quickly, that big, wide main road, which will be the last opportunity, in my opinion, on the last lap for people to sort of make their positions up. They'll go around this roundabout, and then shortly they'll be coming off onto a slip road, almost doubling back on themselves. It's a real pinch point. It was surprised me, even at the speed that I was going, how much I had to slow down around this right-hand turn. Did a little bit of motor pacing myself, actually, Carlton. Didn't tell you, but I got in behind a truck for 500 metres. Don't try that at home, but couldn't help myself.
I heard it was a pedestrian burger van you were behind, so it couldn't have been that fast.
There is Pozzovivo, the small rider from AG Tour. He's the guy that that French team will be working for during this race. They've got Villamoz as well, who's an interesting young French rider, continually improving. at the moment. He was 11th or 10th overall in the Giro d'Italia last year, even though he worked for Pozzovivo. So I'm going to be interested to see how he goes on the stages today. Oh, not today in particular, but of course the Hillier stages. He didn't do a great prologue, but he's got some time to make up, as Villermoz. But yeah, together with Pozzovivo, and if Betancourt does manage to get his act together, they could be a force to be reckoned with. They, of course, started one man down here at Tirreno-Adriatico. Lloyd Munderi heading home, disgraced, I think you might say, after a report from the UCI said that he'd posted I think you call it a non-negative test when the A sample comes back positive for EPO. I haven't actually seen a statement from Mondri himself, but his teammates and management have been quick to distance themselves and to condemn what he's done. It's not. It's the last thing that we really wanted to see, given that the CIRC report had come out just a few days previous, which was quite damning of the governance of the sport at the UCI. Although the UCI themselves did set up the CIRC in the first place. But yeah, Lloyd Munderi, well, I remember him taking me out the back of the Tour of Britain in a crosswind once, so there's karma for you.
Well, down to about 35 kilometers remaining, a gap of 1 minute and 12 seconds between the lead group and the blue jersey group. We'll be right back. You're watching Tirreno-Adriatico on Bein Sports. Get a look there at the telemetry of, or the altimetry of our stage as we reach the last 34 kilometers of today's race, with the gap closing between the lead group and the blue jersey group down to about a minute. Daniel Viss is your virtual leader, your actual leader for the entire race. Adriano Malori, who is holding on to the blue jersey. Back down to the race, Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd have your call.
To finish, and you don't get to see it beforehand, it is quite important to look at the book before. Make sure you've got it in your head. You know where the pinch points are coming, where the turns are coming, whether there's any climbs or slight drags. But really, everybody's going to know where they need to be. It's just a matter of if they can actually do it. The speeds will be incredibly high when they come to this point in a couple of laps' time. This that right-hand or second right-hand turn. Then they've been underneath the Flamme Rouge, marking 1K to go. It already starts dragging up here towards the bridge, and as they go underneath it, they'll take that left-hand turn up that steep pitched tarmac climb. 12% is the gradient on the book there. It felt a little bit steeper than that to me, but that might just be my current lack of fitness. Looks quite steep, doesn't it?
It certainly
even
does.
They're struggling. Yeah,
you can see the way the crowd is standing in attitude to the road, and it clearly magnifies the test that they've got to deal with. There is a recovery zone which they're on right now, so you hit that horrible ramp and then you come up here, still with that of course now almost infamous left-hand turn with 200 meters to go, and then that push along the striated limestone which they've laid down here. It's very beautiful paving. I remember buying limestone myself, and I went and bought cathedral grade to lay in my old house, which I used to live in the east of England. It was a 450-year-old house, and I thought, well, you know, limestone would look rather nice out front. Unfortunately, every single piece of this stuff weighed well over a ton, and nobody could lay it, so I had to actually hire a crane as well to help the guys who were going to try and level the patio outside. They did a fantastic job, as did the Norfolk Crane boat lifting service, so thanks to them. Nonetheless, it looked pretty much like this. Once laid, never moved, and right now they are on this little drag up to what will be the finish line. Ultimately, that'll be the 100-meter mark. It might get a little bit rough. 3 laps to go then, and then you'll hear what is Neptune's bell, apparently. Dan Lloyd's just opening the commentary position window, or he would have done. He's not been quick enough for you to give you a wave.
No, I'm not. I want the whole peloton, not the breakaway, so I've got a couple of minutes.
It's your fans wanted to see your hand with a camera hanging out there, but anyway, never mind. Opportunity missed. We'll try again next time. Bye. 32.6 kilometers to go. A minute is all they've got. Are you ready now? Because they're coming again.
Yeah, that's true, actually. I've only got a minute this time. 2 minutes last time, so the gap come down by 1 minute over the last lap. 4 hours and 15 minutes they have spent so far in the saddle, and they'll have 3 laps to go as they come round this time around.
Well, I think we can, in fact, give ourselves the luxury of opening up the window just a little bit. We might just kick it wide, because we can retrieve it.
Well, I'll let you retrieve that then.
Nice bit of fresh air. So here they come. I don't know if the camera's going to switch over, and you'll pick out Dan Lloyd, who'll just who's hanging from the window at the moment. No, you're not on, Dan. It's not going to happen for you this time, mate. Lovely picture, though, he's managed to get. Oh, and you can see just a little bit of squirreling about, trying to get themselves into a decent position. Well, there you are. Oh, what a lovely shot as well. .9 kilometres to go. The gap now just under 1 minute. Our breakaway, brave as they are, 5 riders up the road and having some fun, at least in terms of the Mountains jersey. They have hoovered up all of the points, intermediate sprint bonuses, as well as points for the King of the Mountains jersey, which sits on the back of Daniel Weiss. He was up there yesterday, along with Quintero, who's second in that competition. So a little battle going on between the pair of them. The green jersey is on the back of the BMC rider, and you can see him now in P2, just behind Flens for Lotto NL Jumbo. This is Arezzo, the old town, truly beautiful. Fellini filmed La Vita Bella here, and it really is rather spectacular. There is a modern town just down in off the peak. Can't quite see it from this altitude, but they have got a proper test on the approach to deal with, and we're on the laps right now. Third time of asking, next time of asking. Say again. Say again. .56 seconds is our gap.
Well, a bunch still led by the Tinkoff-Saxo team. Not really had any help from anybody else, and I'd say that's fair dues today. Sagan is such an outright favourite for the stage. It's perfect for him. You've seen him win it here last year as well. And so all the other teams are just sitting back, saving all their energy and hoping that they can outwit Sagan when it comes to the finish. Under 1 minute now, 59 seconds to be precise. That very, very fast downhill. It's just finished now. A little bit of slipping of the chain there for Chris Juliensen as he accelerated out of the corner, but when they accelerate there on the last lap, that will really put the hurt on some of the guys at the back. They'll be doing 50 k's now around that corner, upping it back up to 60 along this part, and of course when you're on that long line of riders towards the back and you have that whiplash effect. Oh, is that a problem yet? Puncture there for Vincenzo Nibali, the Italian champion from Astana. He'll continue to ride along until he finds his team car coming up alongside of it. Can take some time after you've had a descent with the corners like they have done. He will have got onto the radio to tell his sports director the problem. Rear wheel puncture, but true professional as he is, he's trying to continue riding along. Had a bit of an argument actually on Twitter or on the comment section somewhere about riders using clinchers instead of tub steel. That is the advantage of using tubulars, is that you can ride along a little bit further, which you can't do with clincher tyres.
Well, he's going to take one from his teammate because he's sick of waiting, frankly. There we are. Well, 2 being amended, and yeah, I think the team perhaps a little bit tardy there. Not quite as well as they'd hoped. Roberto Benigni, incidentally, was the film La Vita Bella, not Fellini, so apologies for that. There you go. My film buff status has just taken a bit of a knock. 29.4 kilometres remaining. Nibali gets himself back in and not averse to using other cars, and this is Bora just helping out. But you see teams as well just offering themselves up occasionally down there. Nobody likes to see one of the main contenders and one of the big stars actually suffering, and this is a favour that's often returned, isn't it?
Yeah, well, the convoy has this all of the time. All of the sports directors driving the cars will be very well aware of riders who've suffered a mechanical or a puncture, and they will try to do their best for them and make sure that they get back with the least effort possible. And although that's slightly against the rules, if you read them and adhere to them completely strictly, but always been my opinion that if you have suffered a mechanical through no fault of your own, that there's no harm in getting a little bit of an aid and shelter behind a few cars to try and get you back to where you were.
Well, rules is rules, some of which are slightly more flexible than others. Adriano Malori wearing the blue leader's jersey, and for the last time. And he knows that, which is why he's looking sort of moderately embarrassed by the camera being here. Shouldn't do. He had a great time trial. And you never know, if he stays in touch and minimises his losses, he could have another great time trial at the very end, topping and tailing this Tirreno-Adriatico. 28.6 kilometres to go, 58 seconds.
So still a 5-man lead-out group in front of the race. Vincenzo Nibali needing a new tire there a few minutes ago. We'll take another quick break. We'll be back with more. You're watching Stage 3 of the Tirreno-Adriatico on Bein Sports. .26 kilometers left to go in Stage 3 of the Tirreno-Adriatico here on Bein Sports. We do have one abandoned to report. Bardiani CSF's Sonny Colbrelli has abandoned the race, so we'll see if we can get confirmation on that as the race continues. Let's send it back down to Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd. Stage 3 continues on Bein Sports.
Yet again. You've ridden this course today, Dan. Just how much of a test is it where it comes within the within this race?
Well, it's not, you know, in the bigger scheme of things, it's nothing, this climb to the finish, but it's just going to be the sheer speed that they do go up it, and the fact that if you aren't up there in the top 20 when you reach that 1K to go point, that, you know, you are in danger of losing precious seconds if you're a GC rider, and that's what's going to make it so nervous. That's why we're going to see so much fighting in the last lap coming into that 3Ks to go point and beyond. So let's just hope everybody stays upright. As I said, it's not going to have a huge effect on the you know, the finale of this race in a few days' time. I think we'll look back on this and think that didn't really, you know, it wasn't a game changer, as it were. But again, to reiterate what I said earlier, there were some gaps last year, and if a GC rider can get on the right side of a gap, they'll be very happy this evening. And if somebody finds themselves completely out of position and loses 10 seconds, they'll be very unhappy this evening.
Peter Sagan looks incredibly relaxed. I've seen him more smiley today than I have seen for some time. The latest rider to come up and share a gag with him was Daniel Oss from BMC Racing in the red and black, and the breakaway's heart has been broken here. I think they've done their job essentially, and they really aren't minded to carry on the shenanigans.
Yeah, well, if they do get caught, it will be interesting to see whether there are any fresh attacks. Here we go. Here's that right-hand turn, I think, just coming up now. Have a look at this. I haven't seen a good view of it so far. Come very, very fast in the last lap. They'll be absolutely roaring into this corner, but just catches you out slightly. I didn't have the advantage, of course, of a closed road and be able to swing that far around, but it's reasonably sharp, and let's hope nobody comes down there on the final lap through. It swings them out here to the left. They'll want to go over to the left-hand side of the road very shortly. Again, I couldn't do that either. So I have kind of ridden a course, but
yeah, well,
not on closed roads.
Yes, precisely. It is a joy. I often say to Dan, you know, how was today? Did you enjoy it? And he said, well, yeah, it's just still aches and pains and all the rest of it to be ironed out. But when you're in competition and you get moments such as this, it must feel like a bit of a gift. The road belongs to you, essentially, and there's a great sense of freedom out there, isn't it?
Yeah, it's something you take for granted, really. You know, it's incredible what a difficult job it is to close roads, especially something like the Tour of Britain. Of course, back where we come from, there are just so many lanes. It's incredibly impressive to make sure that nobody comes in from a side lane at any particular point and starts heading towards the peloton in the wrong direction. It's a mammoth task, of course, in comparison to putting on any kind of stadium sport, where you've really just got to have the security. It's always in the same place. Same for the cameras, really. Fixed cameras in a stadium, so much easier than having all these guys on motos and trying to capture all the action from you, from the peloton, from the breakaway, from the back of the peloton. From anybody having trouble, it's a mammoth task organising a race like this, and RCS do a fantastic job in doing it.
Yeah, they do. Super organisers. So, it's down to 30 seconds, and this is because the breakaway have frankly had enough. They know that it's not going to be their day, and so why pace yourselves too hard when you probably could do with just putting something in the bank for tomorrow, especially the King of the Mountains jersey wearer, who's in the break again, vice as he was yesterday, and just looking ahead at what he can assemble. What's your feelings, Dan, about the the way they categorise the climbs here. There's only 2 defined kinds,
well,
really, so you can actually amass quite a few points early on.
It's better than last year, where every climb, I believe, I'm right in saying, had exactly the same number of points, whether it be a 12K monster or the little bump that we had on yesterday to get somebody into the King of the Mountains jersey. So it's an improvement. I guess they do it perhaps to simplify things for what is a slightly smaller race, of course, than the Giro d'Italia. It can be...
I think it's a carrot they're dangling, to be honest.
It's difficult sometimes, I think, even for us to get our heads around some of the rules on time gaps, sorry, on time... what's the word I'm looking for?
I don't know.
You know, where riders have to come in within a certain time of the team leader.
Cut-off point.
Yeah, I don't think that's the exact term I'm looking for, but we'll go with that. And the categories of climbs and the amount of points on offer. I mean, sometimes you've got points at intermediate sprints that count towards the points competition, and a different number of points which count towards an intermediate sprints competition. It's you know, so many rules and regulations to look through at each race, and I guess that last year perhaps they were trying to simplify things, but this year the first 4 over the line for the majority of the climbs will get 5, 3, 2 and 1 points, and at the superior climbs you get 15, so equivalent of course of winning 3 smaller climbs. So it's I think slightly fairer, I think you might say, this year.
20 kilometers left to go, give or take. The riders making their way around Arezzo. Vincenzo Nibali surrounded by his teammates looking to make a late push. We'll be right back with more. You're watching Bein Sports. Well, the peloton has just about caught the lead group. The 5 men that were out in front have been assimilated, so to speak. It is stage 3 of the Tirreno-Adriatico from Cascina to Arezzo. 21 kilometers left to go. Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd have your call back down to race level.
No one in general classification, you've got no job to do at all. Those are the days that feel really draining, because the kilometres just tick by so much slower when you're not concentrated on what you're doing.
So this lovely rise that they take before they descend once again. They're just wending their way around the peaks of Arezzo. And as you can see, the blue jersey group now only 12 seconds divorced, virtually nothing at all. Betancourt just hovering at the back. That little fortification area, as you can see, was sort of a holding area where you'd retreat to out of the town. And you see the rather strange diamond balustrades. It meant that you could actually defend any of the walls from an angle. So basically, you could go out onto one of those little diamond-shaped towers and then shoot your arrows back onto the wall and stop the castle being attacked. So clever stuff in medieval times. 20.8 kilometers to go. The break all bar over right now. Just 2 men remaining from it. Danilo Weiss having picked up the majority of the mountain points, adding to his green jersey tally, and will stay in green for tomorrow. All climbs done and dusted then. Just Boam and Haga out front. Good to see Chan Haga enjoying life for Team Alpecin. It was 4th on the stage in Burgos, individual time trial, and I guess time trialing head is what he needs to engage right now. He's 26 years of age, Chad. I actually thought, I was reminded of that. I actually thought he was a bit younger than that.
Yeah, I did too. He's only joined the World Tour last year with Giant Alpecin, and you often assume actually when somebody joins the World Tour that they're reasonably young. He is still young. He's 26 years of age. I just thought he was one of those kind of 21, 22-year-olds which we've seen coming out of America not too long ago. Quite a good rider. He's riding or ridden in support of Degenkolb and Kittel many times last year. I'm sure he's still learning. It takes a while to get your feet in the World Tour or find your feet in the World Tour. You learn a lot very quickly. Often it's not down to pure power. It's down to tactical nous and knowing where to be at the right time. I mean, there's some times where you get caught out on your midway or towards the back of the peloton and you just think, who on earth is able to ride this quickly at the front? You're hanging off a grim death even though you're slipstreaming, but it's just that positioning is so advantageous, and it can take a while to learn the ropes from that point of view.
Boam and Haga then. Chad Haga, the American, at the front right now, with Boam tagging on there, sharing duties rather well. It was a 12.5 kilometre time trial in Burgos where Chad Haga had his one of his best results as an individual time trialist. So he's got to do that once again. He started the day with a reasonable deficit, I'm afraid, of 1:22 down. So he's of no great threat to anybody. Is Viviani with his rather battered arm. He really did take a hard hit yesterday and stayed down for a long time. We were quite worried about him, but he's on the bike and looks okay.
Yeah, it's not a surprise to see him stay on the deck for a few moments. You know, always hurts when you come down at that speed. Come down a couple of times at 60 k's per hour myself, but I'm pretty sure they were going faster than that yesterday. 12 seconds in the gap. The two remaining breakaway riders very much in the sight now of the peloton, so it's going to be a reasonably early catch, and it will be interesting to see if anyone does play an early hand next time up the climb and tries to go towards the front. As I said, I think that's unlikely. I think it's too far from the finish still to really have any chance of staying out the front. So I think we'll see riders working for their team leaders, keeping them up towards the front, keeping the pace high. It'll be a very, very big last, or very, very fast last lap. Haven't talked much about Cancellara so far, Carlton. What are your thoughts on the Swiss rider today?
Well, as I said earlier on, I think he's actually saving himself for the classics still to come. Milan San Remo, of course, but also out in Flanders and Roubaix. I do think, though, he's the sort of man who gets tempted. He's an ultimate competitor, and he's only a second down, and for goodness sake, why not? If he's in a decent position, I think that's crucial. I think he'll be minded to back out of any danger, though. Yeah, perhaps with such big events coming up, but he's done a couple of interviews back at home in Switzerland this year, and he alluded to the fact that he hasn't been the best of team leaders over the last couple of years, and that he wants to spend more time trying to really go for every race, even if it's slightly smaller, like Tirreno-Adriatico, in comparison to the one-day races still to come. You know, he's already backed up what he said by winning a stage in Oman just a few weeks ago in the preparatory phase, and he's also been working on his sprint, which could play to his favour. And he's always been pretty fast on this kind of finish. You'll remember the World Championships that Mark Cavendish won. He was right up there with the big sprinters' names. He's won from small groups in Flanders, like last year, where he beat both Sepp van Mark and Greg van Avermaet, who kind of on paper normally say are the faster riders. So I'm going to be interested to see. I think you are right. I think he'll you know, give it a go, give it a nudge in the last 5K, see where he is and take it from there, and yeah, perhaps try not to take too many risks. Last thing he wants is to do a Bonin and wipe out his entire classic season due to a crash in this race here. One team who could do with cheering themselves up because of the aforementioned cloud that's hanging over them is AG2 à la Mondiale. I'm just wondering whether they might be minded to have a crack today. They've certainly come up to the fore, and they want the penultimate crossing of the line, when they hear the bell, to have a proper view of it. And they've started to engage more than just a little bit, which is good. Which is why the pace is high, and indeed why the break has, of course, been doomed, perhaps a little bit earlier than many had thought.
Well, Trek Factory Racing putting their nose at the front for the first time so far in this race. Hayden Ralston of New Zealand just pacing up the two GC riders that they've got in that team, namely Julian Arredondo, King of the Mountains at last year's Giro d'Italia, and also Bauke Mollema, who came over from Team Belkin last year. That's 6 Ks to go for the final lap. 16.8 Ks to go, as you can see on your screen. And before we do get into the crunch point of this race, I've been reminded by Aidan van Niekerk that Chad Hager has a degree in mechanical engineering, hence his late entry into the World Tour. So
good boy. Yeah, get your future sorted out first. It used to be quite an old school thing to do, to be honest. Go and learn a trade and then have your fun, so at least you've got something to fall back on. Well, he's here, and not suggesting he's falling back on anything. Domenico Pozzovivo is up here for AG2 à la Mondiale, and I'm just checking out where he is in the overall.
Some way down.
Yeah, 22 seconds is his deficit. But yeah, expect him maybe to flourish a little bit later on. So Stibar Lutsenko probably as well caught. Puzzato for Lampre Merida could go well. Greg van Avermaet has been fantastic. I think has got an option. There's our King of the Mountain, who's been in the break today, Vice, just having a chat. Job well done for him. We're going in, or should we put Sagan to one side and say we think both think Sagan is going to win?
Yep.
Who else?
Are you going for a long outsider, or?
I'm going to stick with Lutsenko. I've been calling for a couple of days on this one.
Okay, I'm going to go for Fabian then. I just think he might be up for things today.
There we are. So Dan's gone safe. I've gone slightly left field. But Lutsenko is a young man with a great future. And it's just got that feeling here at Arezzo of when Sagan started to impose himself. Do you remember when he was actually in arguments with his own team? And
I don't remember that. No.
He claimed that it wasn't here. It was. I'll remember it in a moment. Our favourite coffee shop up on the top there. In the whole of Italy, your favourite coffee shop. That's a tall order. Get back to that later. So just dropping in on Contador, just having a look at his demeanour. I said he looks businesslike, but then again, he doesn't often look any different to that when he's on a bike.
No, he's always very concentrated. He's a guy who likes to be at the front of the race, whether it's a hilly stage or a flat stage, just staying out of trouble. And it's not an easy thing to do, I have to say. Today it's been easier for him because his team has controlled things, but even when they're not holding or shouldering the responsibility of defending or bringing the brake back, they're always at the front, Tinkoff Saxo with Contador, and it does take a large degree of concentration to do that for 3, 4, 5 hours at a time, and I guess that's what makes him the champion that he is. But he'll be trying to utilise the fact that they're working on the front and the fact that they're positioning this man for the final climb to make sure he stays out of trouble, and hopefully, I think, of course, trying to get perhaps a small advantage on some of his teammates. The speed really starting to go up now. Here's Lampre Merida. That man Pozzato might fancy his chances today. They're just trying to position themselves now for that turn that comes 3 Ks before the finish. This, of course, the penultimate lap. There is poor old Betancourt struggling a little bit towards the back. A few gaps starting to open up.
Just having just casting my mind back to Lutsenko as well, our 22-year-old. He is world under-23 road racing champion. That was a couple of years ago. It was a very young man in 2012 when he actually took that. So amongst those in the under-23s, he's still under-23, of course. He was a teenager when he did it. And so can he come to the fore? Well, we've noticed that Aston are starting to muster. Ethics Quickstep also getting involved. Just wondering as to Ethics who their choice would be today, apart from Stibar. I wonder if Oran might well be one of the last for them if he's helping out Stibar. Hard to help out too much on the approach, certainly the very death of the day.
Yeah. But I guess if you do have a domestique left and you're on the wheel, it's not a bad idea to keep the pace as high as possible. But you don't want somebody to die too early, because then, if it's too early for you to launch your own sprint, let's say 300-400 metres to go, then you sit up, and if someone comes from behind with much greater speed, that acceleration to try and get on their wheel is brutal. So it is all about timing. There's so much that can happen in such a short period of time on a finish like today. And you can see all the riders, they're really starting to jostle and fight for position. A couple of the Lotto Jumbo NL riders in the dark yellow, around about 15th position there. Presumably one of them will be Sepp van Mark, the Belgian classic specialist. Be interesting to see whether he tries his hands today. He's got that power over 30 to 40 seconds, that's for sure.
Paul Martins has also got an option for Lotto NL Jumbo. And there is the bell, and it rings for the first time as they come through here. It will be Tinkoff Saxo that lead the charge of the main group. Oh, hello.
Yeah, disaster for Nocentini, who was actually up there on this stage last year. He suffered a puncture. He's got Damien Godin there, just waiting for him. He'll try and pace him back on, but far from ideal time to have this kind of problem. See all of the team cars going through, a few dropped riders as well, so it's going to be difficult for the Italian veteran to make his way back up to the peloton, let alone have a crack at trying to get up there at the finish.
Freighto, 12.1 to go. The pace has suddenly picked up. Dino Nocentini tries to get on behind the car, but the car can't get through, especially as we have a pack of riders who are starting to get a bit sinuous as they make this climb up into this majestic finish that we have today. There we are. Still Tinkoff Saxo, they've worked very hard today, and there's Stibar just being guided into his position, and Mark Cavendish also sort of part of the fun here today. What about Movistar today?
I don't think they've really got a man who's going to threaten the top 3 places on today's stage. They'll, I think, primarily be looking to make sure that Quintana starts the climb in a good position. He did lose some time here last year. Visconti's probably the punchiest rider on a finish like this. He's a multiple Italian champion. This man on the front, winner of the Giro d'Italia back in 2006, and again in 2010, Ivan Basso made the move from Cannondale over to Tinkoff Saxo, predominantly to be a chief domestique, last man for Alberto Contador in the mountains. Chris Juhl Jensen and Tasato, who've been doing the majority of the work so far, have now, well, the legs have dropped off. I'd imagine they'll be either in the bunch or perhaps even forming a small group off the back. They've also got Daniele Benati there. He's in 3rd place in line. He's another rider who was top 10 last year. I think he comes from this region, in fact, so he'll be one of the key riders, I think, for Peter Sagan as they come in towards the finish.
Well, the Dukes of the Puncheurs are all getting together. Stybar's not that far away from the wheel of Sagan, and Cancellara is also there as well. It would be an amazing roster on the day's podium if it happens to be those three. There is the Czech champion of Stybar just coming into your view. There is the young riders classification leader, Peter Sagan, with his red helmet. Still got the yellow gloves of his team, Tinkoff Saxo. That's just about all that represents those colours. There's that turn at 200 metres to go. Remember, Philippe Gilbert it was that went off for a cheeky one on the last couple of ramps and rounded that corner and just unfortunately ran out of steam late on. Really like watching Philippe Gilbert and his sheer guts and verve. So somebody else might be tempted to reach out, but if Sagan has got the power that he had last year, and he certainly looks to have, then he'll be in the frame no matter who takes that final corner. It's 200 metres of potentially drag racing at the end. It's going to be enthralling.
Yeah, it's going to be a great stage finish today. Not so much panic, or at least determined riders at the front. I think everybody's very much left things to Tinkoff Saxo today, and the pace slightly more controlled, I would say, than this time last year. It'll be interesting to see whether another team really does take things up. Oh no, who's that on the side of the road for Cannondale Garmin? Didn't exactly see who that was.
I'm just fearful it's Martin, but we'll see. 10.4 kilometres to go. It's a very brief flash that we got, so apologies for that. AG2 Ola Mondial are still trying to get back on. Dijon Nocentini is trying his level best. They've just sailed past our position. They've passed the cars, but the efforts to get back in will surely hamper him later on. What about Lampremarida today? Gourmet. Not going to be him, but
I think Pozzato will be their man today. He's done a lot of racing already this season, Pipo Pozzato. Time really now to make the most of the form that he must have already got in his legs and try and get a couple of results.
10 kilometres to go. The bell's still ringing on some of the stragglers, and we've got a bit of a traffic jam at the finish line as it's such a narrow place to get through with lots and lots of team cars. They won't have much more work to do, I'm afraid, because 9.8 kilometres out, the pace is so high, it'd be very difficult to get to anyone who's struggling out there. Astana minded to just draft into position Lutsenko, and he's in a terrific spot right now. He's in very elevated company. He's just behind Peter Sagan, along with Stybar, the Czech champion from Etix Quickstep, and not that far behind Lutsenko is Cancellara himself. 9.3 kilometres to go. They're all thinking about it now. This is great.
Yeah, this is not quite as fast as I was expecting, I have to say, Carlton. And it's partly down to, I think, Ivan Basso being the rider on the front. He's not known as the world's best descender. He's taken things cautiously, I think you might say. Last year it was very, very strung out by this point as a team really piled on the pressure at the front. Everyone letting this team have things very much down to them the way they want it at the moment, Tinkoff Saxo. I'm surprised at that. I thought we'd have a couple of teams at this point who would show their hands and try to make things hard, get them into the right position, etc. Here come Movistar. Quintana is the man they'll be predominantly worried about today. Here are a few riders just up or down towards the back here. Tasato there from Tinkoff Saxo. Job done for the day for him. He'll try and hang on as long as possible, but looks like it's game over for them. It is so hard if you do find yourself towards the back of the bunch. Vincenzo Nibali up there in the Italian colours, combined with the Astana turquoise. There's Hayden Rulson, a dependable domestique. He'll be key to trying to keep both the GC riders and Fabian Cancellara into position, as is the man in front of him, Stijn de Vold, a two-time winner of the Tour of Flanders. Strong team Trek Factory Racing have got here, in fact.
Very much so. Nice to see that Greg Van Avermaet for BMC is undiminished in his ambitions today. He's called for assistance, and look at that absolute raft of black and red for BMC, and they're all trying to get themselves sorted out into an effective push for the line. Astana locked in here. Etix Quickstep also with options, but still Tinkoff Saxo and Sagan are the man to beat, and he's being allowed his head for the time being. He's out front and in a happy place. Prestigieux also thinking about it today. Thibaut Pinot is up there. Don't think it's his kind of day. And Sky also just going over to the other side of the road, wanting a bit of clarity.
Yeah, Ian Stannard bringing their riders up towards the front. I think that was Salvatore Puccio, who was third in line for the Team Sky riders. They'll be thinking also, of course, of Wout Poels, who did a fantastic prologue, good climber, making sure that he's right up there, and also Leopold Koenig, another rider that'll be the GC guy for them.
Very late straggler has just gone through. Matt Goss must have had an issue. He's only just crossed the line and taken the bell, while everybody else is 4K or so further down the road. It's a sad thing, and in fact the road is just being closed behind Matt Goss as we speak, as the security cars come through. So the bell ringing upon them as well. Not quite sure what happened to Matt, but not his day today. 7.4 kilometres left. Dindo Nocentini is back in at the rear of the pack. It's announced here on the big screen in front of the assembled great and the good from Arezzo, who are watching this. And right now it's Sky that have decided to come to the fore, and Viviani is being nursed in.
Yeah, Viviani there in the bandaged left arm. He lost a lot of skin in yesterday's crash, both on his hip and his arm, all the usual places really. Knee relatively unscathed, but that's something that's really the least of his worries after all of the other injuries. But everyone trying to now get themselves into position. Tinkoff Saxo will be wanting to make sure that they try and finish this off, given that they've done all of the work so far today and chasing the breakdown. 14 minutes, of course, was the deficit at some point. It's been a reasonably hard chase. There's Bodnar at the front, Benati behind him, Basso there still. Of course, Contador, and at the back of the train is our man for today, or our favourite for today, Peter Sagan, winner here last year. Can he do it again?
Tyler Farrar seems to be guiding in Steve Cummings here. I don't know whether I'm mistaken, but I was expecting Gerald Cholik to be involved for Quebecer. And in fact, they're assembling themselves on both sides of the road right now. So couple of options for the men with the big Q on their back. Interesting. Spragley also disappointed yesterday, and Jumbo just fighting for position. And in fact, there's words being exchanged. A lot of unhappy riders. Road Spacer Premium, 6.2 kilometres to go. I guess you've got to find your place right now and possibly stick to it if you can. Yeah, it's a crucial point now. Crunch time, I think you might say. You can see the fact that it's the way it's spread across the road. That is not because it's slow. It's just because everyone's jostling for position. They're trying to take as much road as they can to try and move themselves towards the front. Difficult, actually, if you find yourself right in the middle of the pack there, as you can see a few Trek Factory Racing guys, to try and make your way out to move up. You get swamped by people coming around your left, around your right, and it's a very, very difficult thing to get right. Fabian Cancellara, a master of it when he really wants to be. BMC coming up towards the front now. Greg Van Avermaet is, of course, the rider that they'll be working for today. If he can get the better of Peter Sagan, it's, of course, him who will take the blue leader's jersey. Mallory on the front in the leader's jersey, working for Quintana in his wheel. Great to see him back to domestic duties. Yeah, a lot of checks over shoulders going on at the moment as teams have been sort of jostled out of position. They don't like it, but then again, nobody has the right to actually own the road. You've kind of got to share it and maybe just lean on some of your old alliances. Not quite sure, but big pace being kicked into this one. Demarchi just setting a real roaster for BMC, and the pace is very, very high. And here come AG2 Le Mondial and Trek with Cancellara also very much involved. Not that too far off the point right now with 5.1 to go. Yeah, that was the Belgian rider coming up towards the front for Trek Factory Racing. Speed is incredibly high now. Yam Cycling now on the left-hand side too. They've got 4 riders in line. BMC with 5 up there towards the front. Peter Sagan is still hovering about. You can see him on the bottom right of your screens right now. He's got 1 lead-out man left. I think that is Daniela Benati. All still to play for here with 4.6 Ks to go. 1 rider from Cannondale as well, Cannondale Garmin there. Is that Nathan Haas? They've got him and Navadauskas, who could do a good result here today. So all looking at each other. Don't forget, they're going to... Best place to be at the moment would probably be the right-hand side of the road. But then you have the right to drift. You can marshal everybody out towards the left before you make your big turn. And then we start our climb. 3 Ks to go is that first crucial point in my mind. They take that big right-hand turn, swings right round back on themselves. It's a pinch point as well. BMC trying to lead their man Greg Van Avermaet into prime position for that point. Giant Alpecin now making themselves known on the left-hand side of the bunch. All of the teams trying to get themselves together.
Zdeněk Stybar is up there with two teammates from Ethics Quick-Step just in front of him. He could be someone that could surprise Peter Sagan today.
I think so. Well, Sagan knows that as the threat. I think they possibly started joint favourites. 3.7 kilometres to go right now. The Flamme Rouge does beckon. And really then they're in the absolute centre of the little whirlwind that will be these city streets of old Arezzo. Right now they're on the big highway and they're racing for that position, that big right-hand turn, and this is clever stuff. For both Lotto teams, Jumbo and Soudal go over to the other side of the road. That gives them the widest view of the turn, which is a right-hander coming up.
Yeah, Sepp Van Mark on the front now. They're working for the German rider Paul Martins. You can see they got a little bit of a draft from the motorbike there, which we got a great view, but yeah, well, they took as much advantage as they could. A few riders going off to the left-hand side of the road there. Come on, let's get back to the fight for this right-hand corner now.
Here it comes. The whistles go. The pedaman's there. You drift out to the left-hand side of the road. Take your big turn and take your time, for goodness sake. And that's what they're doing, getting through safely. Safest of all seems to be Peter Sagan. Now, he's in an unenviable position right now because this is where he doesn't particularly want to be, because he's in that spot where you can get mugged if you're not careful. And he's got to be, he's going to have difficulty controlling this one until he can actually turn on the taps after that last turn with 200 metres to go. A little way to go before we get to that. Now, Stybar needs to get himself a little bit further forward. Astana also looking to help out Lutsenko, the young man in the pale blue of Astana. Messrs Bodnar doing a lot of driving now. 2.3 only remaining.
Yeah, Bodnar doing a great job on the front. Speed very, very high now. Those riders who found themselves out of position for that right-hand turn 700 metres ago will now be struggling to get back towards the front. Amongst them, Trek Factory Racing. They missed out a bit there. They're trying to bring their man Fabian Cancellara towards the front. Can't see him there in the top 20 at the moment. Crunch point now in this race. Mark Cavendish looks to be up there towards the front, trying to help Zdeněk Stybar. He's inside the top 10. BMC have been the best so far in terms of team organisation over this last 10Ks.
Yes, it's Cadell Evans marshalled them beautifully, gave over some great help. He's been in team cars on a regular basis, and he always calls for good vision, and that means out front. And the drive goes on. 1.7 to go here.
Daniel Oss, the man who surprised us all in the prologue, 6th position for him there, is on the front now, doing an amazing job. Greg Van Avermaet on the wheel of his BMC teammate, leading them into this double right-hander, which will bring them into the 1K to go mark. Then we've got that steep pitch up on a fully tarmacked road, and then it's that slabbed road all the way to the finish. Here we go then.
Oh, caught on the inside was Cancellara. Drifts out just a little bit. Some elbows going on. It's very, very tight. A lot of respect being offered up to everybody. Everyone's staying safe just for now. Flamme Rouge beckons, and the Old Town, and that drag up. The cobbles, the road surface just a little bit cut up at the moment. And here's Sagan. Not that far away is Cancellara, still holding station. Greg Van Avermaet is in the bird seat just for the time being. And here comes Katusha. A slack feed on cast. Almost bounces back in. Lutsenko is there as well. For Astana, big turn, little shimmy as well. It goes long and lazy right now, and all of a sudden this is going to spark up. Who's going to take it? Who's going to take the bait first? I wouldn't be surprised if it's Sagan. He's got a lot of power on board, but it's Katusha in the driving seat just now.
Yeah, Katusha up towards the front. Daniel Oss doing an amazing job for Greg Van Avermaet, who is second in line at this point in time. Giant Alpecin up there towards the front as well.
Oh,
here goes Stybar.
Pick it up. Stybar now does not need anybody else to guide him in, and Sagan stays absolutely locked on his back wheel. Greg Van Avermaet is also there, and here are the Astana boys as well. Nibali's even been helping out. It's not just about overall position for him. Sepp Van Mark's also in a decent position as the road starts to kick up here.
Pipo Pozzato in the pink is right up there for the Lamprey team. They've got almost 500 metres to go now. Paul Martins, the German rider from Lotto Jumbo's there as well, but Peter Sagan in the perfect position to take his second win here in Arezzo.
Big gulps of breath being taken by Stybar, and here comes Cancellara as well. Cancellara, I think he's going to wind this one up. Greg Van Avermaet goes some bumps and bruises. They want to turn. They want to be in a decent position to take this. Sagan stays safe just for now. When's he going to reach out and go for it? Greg Van Avermaet's taking it for now, and here comes Sagan. He gives himself some vision. Oh, those golden shoes are starting to dance, but it's Stybar, I think, that's got the better of him. Stybar nudges Sagan over to the barriers. Sagan, oh my goodness! Greg Van Avermaet, Sagan, Stybar. It's a photo, but Van Avermaet thinks he's got it, and so do we. What a finish.
That was incredible. Hats off to Greg Van Avermaet. He's been known as the nearly man in the last couple of years. That is a big win, which will fill that man with confidence with the Classic still to come. Great win, and the blue jersey as leader of the race.
Wow, you get it all here. That was as big a punch-up amongst the greats as you're going to get on that kind of running. Absolutely wonderful. Great job for BMC. I always love to see the foot soldiers of any team coming through with huge grins on their faces, because they know tonight at the dinner table it's going to be party time. MT and Quebec didn't quite have things all their own way. BMC bossed the road when they needed to. They were the policemen. Super job by them. Well, what a day we've had. Greg Van Avermaet, Peter Sagan, Stybar, Pozzato, Cancellara. You couldn't ask, no disrespect to anybody else, for a higher quality top 5. It was a day built for those names, and they all came to the right place at the right time. Good finish by Uran as well. Well, it's packed out the finish because they come to a near standstill because of the narrowness of the road. So there's a bit of a log jam, as you can see. Dan Lloyd has skipped down using his eel-like skills to get through the crowd. It was a big lunge, but Sagan missing out yet again. Let's have a look. Sagan, I think, will be our leader, courtesy of the bonuses at the line. Let's have a look at how they go. Wonderful overhead shot here in the old town, almost blowing the roof tiles off. Well, Van Avermaet did a superb job. Here comes Sagan, tight on the barriers. There wasn't much room, and I think he just ran out of road. If it had been another 10 meters, he'd have been there. What a finish. And what a great win by Van Avermaet in this kind of company as well. He's on fantastic form. Great work. GBA gives it the GBH. That's grievous bodily harm. Thankfully, everybody stayed on their bikes, no matter how rough. Great racing. Well, I hope you enjoyed that as much as we did. And yes, what a backdrop we've got. And that lovely spring, just like autumn sunshine, low frequency light, flooding us with colors. It just illuminates everything. Greg Van Avermaet takes the day. Peter Sagan now trails him by 2 seconds in the overall standings. So Van Avermaet is our new leader, courtesy of the bonuses at the line, not only taking the stage, but also the blue jersey. Sagan, red-hot favourite to be in the leader's jersey, still has that deficit. Mallory now 8 seconds down, ahead of Cancellara. So a stage-winning performance, and indeed an overall standings step, the top one for him. There's that final curve. It was all looking a bit brutal at this time. Sagan boxed in, and in fact he was in P5. Started the grind right here. Got a lot of power, Sagan. That was Stybar in front of him with Van Avermaet out front and sailing. Had to go for the barriers, nowhere else to go, Sagan. And in the end, losing out. He'll be disappointed by that. Sagan needing a win of late. I would have liked the leader's jersey. It's not going to be on his shoulders. And with the high climbs to come in the next 2 days, it looks like he may well miss out. Wonderful, wonderful racing today in a beautiful place, Arezzo. Stage win and blue jersey for Van Avermaet.
So Greg Van Avermaet wins stage 3 of the Tirreno-Adriatico. It takes the blue jersey away jersey after winning the initial time trial and then staying in that blue jersey yesterday. Greg Van Avermaet goes into the blue jersey today by winning the race. Peter Sagan, who came in with the same time as Mallory and was expected to take the blue jersey today, does not do so. He finishes today's race in second place and remains in second place in the overall standings. We'll send it back down to the race for an interview.
Greg, huge congratulations. Not only a big win, but ahead of some very, very big names as well.
Yeah, it was a nice stage for me. I was close in Strade Bianche, and I knew this finish would suit me also, so it was really important, and the team did a good lead out in the end. But then, yeah, last 200 meters I was in front, so it was still far, and I went from far on, but I could try to keep the guys off, so I'm pretty happy with this win.
This must give you a lot of confidence going into the Spring Classics ahead now.
Yeah, I was a few times close already, and it's always nice when you get the first victory of the season, especially in a World Tour race. And yeah, I think we have a pretty good team, and I'm really happy with this win in the leader jersey.
Great, thanks very much indeed.
Thank you.
Good man, happy man as well, but naturally exhausted after a very long day. More battles still to come in this amazing race, the Tirreno-Adriatico, and it'll be the GC boys that start to nose into the front of our consciousness over the next few days. Stage result confirmation of your top 10. Greg Van Avermaet taking it, same time as all of these guys, but the bonuses factored into this. 10 seconds for Greg Van Avermaet, and as a result, he takes the lead by a margin of 2 over Peter Sagan, who himself picks up 6 seconds. Steve R gets 4. All spinning into the overall classification.
And so a look at the highlights from today. Stage 3 of the 2015 Tirreno-Adriatico took us from Cascina to Arezzo. It was 203 kilometers. Most of our coverage, though, centering around the last 6 times around the circuit in Arezzo, where we finished our race. Lots of twists and turns and a very technical finish. When the day started, it was Adriano Mallory who came in as the blue jersey holder for Movistar team. Of course, Jens Debouchet coming in as the race winner in stage 2. He came in as the red jersey holder, Mallory in the blue. Green jersey holder was Danilo Weiss coming into today. He took the King of the Mountains points today, and he will go into that Green Mountains jersey tomorrow as well. Peter Sagan came in today with the same time as leader Mallory, and it was expected that he would go into that blue jersey. At the end of the day, though, he did not. He remains in second place, 2 points out of the overall classification league. Greg Van Avermaet, today's winner, will go into that blue jersey, and I'm sure we'll have the presentation in just a moment. Peter Sagan remains the leader in the young rider classification, the white jersey, and he will hold on to that as we enter stage 4 of the race, which will be tomorrow. Stage 4 of the race will take us from Arezzo to Castelraimondo. That's going to be 218 kilometers, a medium mountain stage, about 135.5 miles if you're not familiar with the metric system. And again, that will be tomorrow as stage 4 continues the 2015 Tirreno-Adriatico, the 50th edition of the race here on Bein Sports. A quick rundown of the top 10 as it was at the end of today's stage. Of course, Avermaet, Stybar, and Peter Sagan are your top 3. Posato, Cancellara are 4 and 5 respectively. Simon Gensch of Team Giant Appleson will come in 6th place. Paul Mertens, Andriy Grivko, Rigoberto Urán, and Walter Poels round out the top 10. Adriano Mallory goes from the blue jersey holder to 3rd in the overall classification, 8 points back of Greg Van Avermaet, today's winner. Peter Sagan now in 2nd place in the overall standings, although we're going into the mountains tomorrow, so he may never get to wear that blue jersey. Not his strongest suit, but Peter Sagan is a very, very strong rider and still one of the favorites of this competition, especially where he is seated in the standings. Fabian Cancellara and Matthias Brandl are 4 and 5. We'll send it to break. We'll be right back with more. You are watching Bein Sports. Welcome back. For the second day in a row, we have a Belgian rider finishing in first place. Greg van Avermaet is your stage winner, and he goes into the blue jersey as well, winning today's stage from Cascina to Arezzo.
È successo, che grande affermazione, quella del portacolori della PLC Racing Team. Era uno dei corridori più attesi in questa tappa. È andato ad imporsi con una prova di forza su questo traguardo. Greg van Avermaet. Meta belga che festeggia sul traguardo di Arezzo. Greg van Avermaet, PLC Racing Team.
Always fun to celebrate with the Prosecco. Greg van Avermaet is your new blue jersey holder as well, in addition to winning today's stage. Peter Sagan will hold on to the young rider classification. He will finish in second place today and remain in second place in the overall classification. Danilo Weiss will hold on to the green jersey as well. That'll be presented in a short amount of time. We'll have the points classification leader for you in just a moment as well. Once again, for the second day in a row, a Belgian rider takes the stage win. Jens Debouchet, your stage 2 winner. Adriano Malori, who came into today as the blue jersey holder after holding it through the first 2 stages, now falls to 3rd in the overall classification. But first, Greg van Avermaet, today's stage winner and new blue jersey holder.
Greg van Avermaet viene premiato da Italo Ziglioli, vincitore della Tirreno-Adriatico del 1971, e da Giuseppe Peluso, responsabile Banca Mediolano di Arezzo. È lui il leader della classifica generale, Greg van Avermaet. Portacolori della PLC Racing Team, quindi veste il simbolo del primato, veste la maglia azzurra di leader della classifica generale. Greg van Avermaet, il vincitore di questa tappa, così suggellato questa giornata importante.
And so the blue jersey transfers from Movistar team, where it began the competition for the first 2 days. It will move over to Team BMC, with Greg van Avermaet, the new jersey holder, going into stage 4 of the 2015 Tirreno-Adriatico. And again, coverage will continue here of the 2015 Tirreno-Adriatico on Bein Sports. We still have a few more jersey award ceremonies to go. Up next, the points classification leader. We send it down to the stage once again. Still to come as well, the award for the mountains classification, which will be Danilo Weiss, and the young rider classification will be Peter Sagan, who, believe it or not, is still a young rider jersey. Peter Sagan, it looks like, is going to go into the red jersey again, back down to the podium.
Il momento della premiazione del leader della classifica a punti. Maglia rossa al termine della terza tappa della Tirreno-Adriatico è il portacolori della Tinkoff Saxo, Peter Sagan! Peter Sagan riceve la maglia rossa da Francesco Romizzi, assessore allo sport della città di Arezzo. Peter Sagan!
So that's going to do it for today's coverage. Peter Sagan goes into the red jersey. He holds on to the white jersey as well. Still second in the overall standings. Greg van Avermaet is your race leader. For Carlton Kirby and Daniel Lloyd, I'm Gino Fuentes. Thank you for joining us for Stage 3 of the Tirreno-Adriatico. Join us again tomorrow for Stage 4 on Bein Sports.